Hello everybody and welcome to Sebring International Raceway in Central Florida. This venerable circuit, which was turned into a motor racing track after its duty as Hendrick Field during the Second World War, training bomber pilots to go and fight, held its first race on New Year's Eve 1950. And my goodness, if this concrete could talk. Not the Mobile 112s out of Sebring for us this weekend, but 90 minutes of action with a stellar grid of drivers, all in one category, the biggest field of GT Le Mans cars ever assembled in real world or indeed in the virtual. Right in the middle of Florida, beautiful time to be around at Sebring with the smell of orange blossom in the air, 17 corners, 3.74 miles with action areas down to turn 1 on the bumps, heavy braking at turn 7 in front of the new 7 Sebring Hotel, or newly named turn 10, that's Cunningham Corner, and then of course turn 12 Tower, and then all the way back down towards turn 17. It's called Sunset. We won't get to see the sun setting today as we're running the sim in real time, and that means that we should have decent weather. I said if this concrete and tarmac could talk, the concrete sections of this circuit are exactly as they were when Sir Jack Brabham pushed his car across the line to make it finish, exactly as they were when the World Sports Car Championship came here in its early iteration in 1953. Cars are out for the single car qualifying. IMSA Radio and IMSA TV together with our colleagues from iRacing. If you're listening on RS2 and you haven't got it up now, we do have vision for you on Mixer and on also on the iRacing YouTube channel. Nick Damon and Ben Constanturis are with me, John Heintorfer. It's good to have the company. Nick Damon already seen some cracking times. The engine you can hear in the background of the Porsche specialist from the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and he's been twice a winner in Porsche Cup Championships. It's Nicky Katzberg who set the fastest time so far, and he, in fact, in the BMW was quickest as well in the free practice that ended not so very long ago.
Yep, he's leading, I think, teammate, fellow BMW driver or virtual driver, Bruno Spengler. He's got a lead of about 0.03 of a second, so it's not an awful lot, is it really? Oh no, Robbie Foley has just gone to the top of the timesheets with a 56.354. That's just under a tenth quicker. Another BMW. It's a BMW lockout, top three. M8 GT and then two Porsches.
And Ben Constantiouris, are you back with us? Oh, no, you see, this is the problem of not just being able... Oh, big shunt out on the circuit there for one of the 20 BMWs. Let's see if we can pick out who that was. Meantime, Michael Johnson in the distinctive black, yellow and red colours.
I think that was a 94 of Tom O'Gorman.
Okay, well, Tom O'Gorman is a qualifying specialist in TCR normally in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. He is a one-lap demon, normally gets pole position literally with one flying lap. And Michael Johnson running in colours relatively familiar. Let's go back and find out what happened to that BMW turn. On the far side of the circuit, up towards Tower, it was the...
No, it's the 85.
85.
It's the 85. Sorry, I have spoken out.
That's Tristan Vautier, who we were talking to earlier on. He says he's been getting a bit of practicing in the last few days. Didn't help them there.
Good news is that will buff out with just pressing over the escape button and a restart, but he will lose any chance to qualify. He'll lose a chance to qualify because he'll effectively, when you go back to the pitch, you start your second flying lap from the pit. So that will, unfortunately, as Tristan has sneaked in a quick one, resign him to the back, very much towards the back of the grid, unfortunately.
Ben Constantiouris is back with us. Sorry, Ben, that was my finger trouble earlier on. A lot of pressure on these drivers here in qualifying.
Now one lap to get through. Interesting to see some of the performances of some of our leading contenders. The gaps are large, much larger than we saw in practice. Okay, very tight between Robbie Foley and Nicky Katzberg at the head of the field. Sebastian Priault's doing a good job. D-rated driver, doesn't have that much experience on iRacing. He's the first of our C-rated drivers. If you're kind of like an unofficial driver grading, if you like bronze and silver in different types of motorsport. So he's the best of the C classes. Jesse Krohn's been very impressive even in practice, and he's best of the B class drivers in fifth. And Felipe Nasra, best of the rookies, who's just been passed at Andretti, but Nasri down in 17th spot. I'm interested to see if we ever get Antonio Felix da Costa, because he's actually participating in another race at the moment, somewhere completely different to Sebring, although he's actually in the same country, so that could work out for him, but he may...
Qualifying is over, gentlemen, and it is Richard Highstand on pole position. By the way, Tristan Vautier had already done a 57.8, so he has got a time in at least. So Richard Highstand for Porsche on... Oh, excuse me, my apologies. Let's have a look at the grid, and that's just been updated for Robbie Foley and Nicky Katzberg on the front of the grid. With row 2 is Bruno Spengler on the inside and Sage Karam. He's the man who's got the best driver rating. Row 4, Sebastian Priaulт and Kenton Cook with 888 Mirko Bortolotti and Shinya Mishimi, the man who normally drives Lamborghinis very quickly, twice a Lamborghini champion, and he's got the second best iRace rating in this race. Only 2 drivers over 5,000, Shinya and Sage Karam. Gabby Chavez and Corey Lewis are on road 6 in the 33 and the 101. Row 7, Daniel Morad. Daniel is a dark horse here, as is Richard Westbrook in the first of the Fords, the 109 car. It's mainly black. Richard makes fuel, goes a long way, and there will be one pit stop here. Tom O'Gorman, who we saw having that incident with a 57.5, had got that lap in early before we saw it with the problem. Jared Andretti in the black number 27 Porsche, son of John Andretti. We welcome him to the championship race. Going further back down on the 10th row, Tristan Vautier and Dakota Dickinson. Then it's Alex Premat and Philippe Albuquerque. Then Michael Lewis and Ben Waddell in row 12. That's about, halfway down not even halfway down the grid. Santino Ferrucci and Dan Clark. That is Speedy Dan Clark, who has done a couple of IMSA races, including at Daytona. Harold Gottsacker, normally in a Hyundai, this weekend driving GT Le Mans machinery with Nick Poole, another one of our Michelin pilot drivers as we scroll through. Nico Ronde, Sim Raceway instructor, of course, over at Sonoma with Roman DeAngelis alongside him in the Porsche. Tyler Cook and Parker Chase are on 17. Yes, that Parker Chase, NASCAR as well as a sports car driver. James Vance and Mark Wilkins heading towards the further back of the grid now. These guys have all got things to do with Ryan Hardwick and Michael Johnson. Then Jerome Blake-Camolan further back on the grid than he's probably ever been in his career with Mark Allen and Stephen McAleer. I'm very surprised to see Stephen that far back. His younger brother, very good as well. Harry Tinknell in the Ford number 55. Then Seth Thomas, and right at the back, James Pesek and Dalton Kellett. So not quite a full grid there as we are rolling on the warm-up lap.
46 cars will take the flag, unless there may be a couple of cars that didn't actually qualify, which may just crawl out the back. But certainly when you're 20 rows back, there's a lot of cars you'll be trying to see before you even see the pace car.
Watch out for anybody starting from the pit lane. We might yet see that for people who've had problems. So there is the safety car leading them around. It will be a rolling start here, and 90 minutes here at Sebring. It looks pretty sunny and no sign of cloud. This track changes massively if there's a little bit of cloud. Remember, the track was clean before an hour's worth of free practice, then timed practice, and then qualifying, but it hasn't been cleaned between the sessions. So it is evolving all the time, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely, and that will change the racing line, especially, exactly the same as what we see in real life. The marbles forming on the outside of the circuit, not a place you want to be. Thinning the line for overtaking as well, and making sure that these drivers are as precise as they possibly need to be. Beautiful graphics, beautiful representation of Sebring back from the 2011 version when it was laser scanned to millimeter perfection. And that is what you're seeing here today for these guys to enjoy in a 90-minute race.
How many drivers, says Steve Wilkinson on at IMSA Radio, have begged the real race engineers for tuning and setup advice? I know a team who set up World Touring cars based on the information, at least a base setup, that they got from race simulation on iRacing. Using iRacing as the platform. Well, you'd rather be in the front of the field than at the back. Our Porsche keys to the race. Stay on the lead lap. Remember, there's no further intervention from the Porsche safety car. You can't afford damage. It will affect you, and if you've got to get a tow back, it's a 2-minute penalty plus the damage to be fixed. Tyres, can you make them last 90 minutes? It's a stint and a half, and if you do, what pace will you have at the end? Because you will have to make one fuel stop. Can't go much longer than an hour and 5 minutes here, and that is going to be the big strategic play here, and we'll keep you up to date with our Porsche keys to the race. Sebring looking splendid. VP Racing Fuel Broadcast Centre online. 50 IMSA drivers lined up, ready to go. The green flag is in the air. Fantastic jump by the Turner BMW down towards turn 1 for the first time. 50 GT Le Mans cars. Was there 6 wide there behind the leaders going into turn 1? I think there was. 24 shuffled back just a little bit there. One of the BMW drivers, and already there's been a shot. That was one of the 20 Porsches in the race. Didn't quite catch who that was. Don't know if you guys picked it up there. 90 minutes on the clock, and there's a tap at the front of the field, and a new leader. The BMW went very sideways from Turner Motorsport, the number 96 car there, Tyler Cook, Robbie Foley, excuse me. But what was the BMW? It was Jesse Cron who was going backwards a little bit there. Mark Allen in the 104 car right up the front of the field for a moment. BMW's leading out as they head round the back of the circuit for the first time. The number 25 is Bruno Spengler in the second of the red, white and black machines.
Scoring the lead at the moment.
And is that Mark Allen who's at the front? Yes, it is. It is the 104 car. They're wearing the same team colours which I'm not complaining about. The BMW M Sport black car in third place is the number 25 of Bruno Spengler. Then in behind that's a Porsche.
I think Mark Allen is a mistake. He's apparently leading by a whole lap, so it is Katzberg and Spengler as teammates with the same livery leading, and I think it was Katzberg with that little bit of contact.
That makes more sense.
To move Robbie Fowler, who's spun in the background as well.
Robbie Fowler's gone round again, so it's been an awful first lap for Turner Motorsport. The crotch belt won't like that at all. And there is the Turner Motorsport car on the side of the road at the Chantebienne bends. He'll do a flick turn, but he's lost a huge amount of ground. Now the question is there damage there as well? Big battle further down the field. That's Sage Karam in the 8 and Sage in the Porsche with the white front, the black midsection and the red back. And in behind him is the BMW, one of the multitude of M8s. And that is Jesse Krohn, who's trying to come back through after getting slightly pushed down the field. Bastien Priaulx should be the next car back, and he's now the first of the Ford. So Seb's had a decent run in that first lap.
Good start there from Priaulx. He's nicely painted in a light shade of white with a different body shell as well. It's easy to pick up. But yeah, there was certainly some comings and goings in the first couple of laps, it has to be said. And it was interesting that the big loser was the Turner BMW painted car, which not only got nobbled out of the lead and then spun on his own.
Well, did he spin on his own or did he get a little bit more help? Down to turn 7, the hairpin for the second time. The leader's already heading up towards Cunningham Corner. This has been a good start for the two BMW team drivers. They are very, very serious about this. BMW actually do have an esports program and they are lapping this up, literally as well as metaphorically. That looks to me, though, Ben Constantiouris, as though these two are driving as a team, because there's no effort from the second place car of Bruno Spengler to put any pressure at all on Nicky Katzberg, the leader.
Now, I watched Bruno Spengler take part in a Sim Racing Expo event back at the Nürburgring last September, and he was quite useless at keeping the car on the road at that point. I think he's had a lot of practice since then. This looks like much more solid drive, and to be matching Nicky Katzberg as well. Really good stuff from him. Just to let you know, I think timing screen is working.
Yeah.
Robbie Foley down in 41st place, not last. We haven't had Tinknell, Mark Allen or Jarrett Andretti over the start line for the first time, so perhaps problems for those three guys, but Foley is 41st.
And on the right hand side of the screen, for those of you watching who have sound and vision, the battle for 9th is Richard Highstand in the 14, Corey Lewis in the 101, Tristan Fortier is there in the 85 and Kenton Cook in the 63. They're all battling together. That's what we had a little shot of there. They are going through the far side of the circuit now and picking their way through the early part of the track. The bright pink number 14 is Richard Highstand. I think I was going to say dark horse. He can't be a dark horse when he's got a bright highlight of pink and taupe and bright blue front end Porsche. Richard's got a decent driver rating, and patience at this time, Ben Constantiouris, is going to be very, very important as he rounds the hairpin at turn 7.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a long race. 1 hour and 25 minutes still to go. Just work out what kind of fuel consumption your car's doing, how much you're using those tyres per lap, and you can start to compute a kind of a strategy. What's happening around you as well? So many cars on the track. There are a couple of stragglers right at the tail of the field, but timing and scoring kind of slightly confusing me right now as to what exactly is happening at the very tail of the field. But ultimately, there seems to be one long string of cars right now, and therefore you're going to have to really get yourself out of that string of cars if you feel like you're being held up by the guy in front.
It's what happened at the start of the race then, as we try and work out what happened. Certainly the Andretti car was involved, and the black 27 Porsche with a problem very early on. There he goes down the inside to turn 1, hit the inside wall, I think, trying to make up too much ground, and then nosed in very hard indeed. So Jarrett Andretti out before he'd even completed the first lap.
Traffic already for our leaders.
Yeah, good spot with 50 cars around the circuit, Nick. That's going to happen.
certainly with the early lap stragglers, there have been some number of knocks and bangs, and a few of the guys would say, well, I'm going to get in early and just get this thing cleaned up and see what I can pick up in the remaining hour and a half. I'm not going to win, but let's see how far I can reclimb. But they will have spent some time in the pits, John, and they'll be, say, snaffled up by the guys looking to lap them.
I think that's Harry Tinknell, actually, who has been into the pits after a heavy crash on the first lap. He is running, but he's some 1 minute behind Felipe Nasra, his nearest rival. And it looks to be the first person that these leading contenders are going to get on top of. You're going to have to trust that car behaves itself when they're trying to overtake.
First and second, Katzberg and Spengler lead out. Then it's the Porsche of Serge Camby, number 8. Jesse Krogler, 24 BMW Ford. Sebastian Priaulx in 5th position for the first of the Fords. Then machining in the 86 Porsche. Mirko Bortolotti in the 888 Porsche. Daniel Morad looking back from his Porsche. The first person that you see is Richard Heistand in the 14 with the pink and blue. He's in 9th, and 10th is Corey Lewis. That's your top 10 with Kenton Cook just outside in 11th position.
And a whole gaggle of Porsches. I think it's like 6 in a row by the looks of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 or 7 Porsches in a row. The RSRs have all clubbed together as a team. But of course, they are all racing themselves and not necessarily pulling themselves along as the two BMWs in the front are.
Now,
so this car was built and released last December, so it's been around for about a year, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of the favoured cars to be chosen in this race, because as iRacing has progressed and as they've built newer cars like the BMW M8 as well, they've kind of slightly improved on the way that they simulate these cars, and so the older cars, the Ferrari and the Ford GT, are less used and popular because they're just older builds effectively. This is obviously the same car-ish that's used in the Porsche Super Cup, the effectively iRacing World Championships, and it's a spectacular machine, very close to real life.
But presumably though, if it's the RSR, it's the one where they've changed the engine and the gearbox, so the dynamics of the cars be different. The Super Cup car is the standard rear engine car, isn't it? So this is, I'm pretty certain this is last year's Porsche here. There's an upgrade on this car for 2020 in IMSA racing, although confusingly it's called an RSR 19.
I was chatting to our resident iRacing expert, Mr. Joseph Bradley.
Yeah.
And he said, on these GTEs, the BMW M8 is a really pleasant, easy car to drive. Yeah. But if you get the RSR right, it's quicker.
Yeah. It's very, but it's like many racing Porsches have been down through the years. When it's good, it's very, very good. When it's bad, it can be very difficult and twitchy, particularly on the brakes. Battle's going down into turn 7 at the moment. The number 67 Ford, brightly coloured there, leading a whole gaggle of cars, including the BMW behind it.
Yeah, that's Bortolotti, I think.
Bortolotti in the 888.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So that is so that's Sebastian. That's not Sebastian Priaulx.
Yeah,
it's not the colour. Has he changed his colours since qualifying?
Possibly,
because he had Multimatic signage on the side of that car in qualifying. So Priaulx then.
Is that further down the field?
There's definitely Bortolotti, the 888 there, isn't it?
Could be lapping cars as well. Harry Tinknell's been in the pits. Mark Allen's been in the pits as well.
No, it's 198. Sorry.
James.
Pick out who that was. Here's a problem for.
I think it's James Pesek.
Yes, you're right. It is. Well done. Good spot. It was Michael Lewis, the 198, and Dalton Kellett in the car ahead. Now, this is what happened earlier on to the Porsche. That was a touch going into turn number 3 on the number 104.
Yeah, so he's a lap down, Mark Allen, already. Or is he 2 laps down?
He's 2 laps down now.
Yeah, so he's had a big. He's already had a big accident and pitted, got it fixed, and he's still causing trouble and causing trouble for some of our leading contenders as well.
Let's look at some of the big movers in the early laps inside the top 20. Well, up a massive 26 positions is Speedy Dan Clark in the 102 Porsche. He's gained 13 positions from a start position of 26. Tristan Fortier in the BMW 85 is 1 place ahead of him. He's gained 7 positions. And inside the top 10 from 13th to 8th in the early laps, Daniel Morad is up in the number 7 Porsche. Shinya Mishimi up 3 from 10 to 7 in the 86. Those are the big movers early on.
You get to the point where it's actually Shinya who's kind of a little bit slower than the rest. The top of the table, the top 6 guys have all been running the 57s. Say that Sebastian dropped into 58 last time round, but Shinya is a whole second lap slower than our leaders and dropping off a little bit. So it is separating. You've got the two BMWs, little gap to save, then a little gap back until you get to Shinya now being dropped off the back of that top 7.
There's more problems for Mark Allen in the Porsche going, he turned in too tight to the final corner at turn 17.
It's just as bad, but it's not costing him any money, isn't it? Oh dear.
He kind of turned in with the rear completely unloaded, and it
Correct.
just carried on turning far too tight than he really wanted to. But I think Mark is struggling a little bit getting used to this. He is a rookie. Hasn't got a huge amount of experience in iRacing whatsoever. In fact, 3 days experience. So he's obviously logged on just for this race, and he's getting used to the nuances of driving virtually rather than real.
Next time we see the cars at the front of the field, keep an eye on the livery. Hashtag stay home just for this race, the BMWs. Meantime, the battle for 3rd and 4th position has Sage Karam, by far the best positioned Porsche in the number 8 car, with Jesse Krohn right up his tailpipes. Further back at turn 7, a whole gaggle of cars still battling just on the lower reaches and outside the top 10. The bright number 14 pink car, well, there's 2 pink cars together there, with one with a blue front end is Richard Highstand, and Kenton Cook is trying to come down the inside of him there in the similar coloured Porsche, and that may well let Corey Lewis in there as well in the 63, the mostly white Porsche, as he heads up the inside for a moment. And I think that got through there.
No, he didn't. He got repulsed. Despite all of them going through the Cunningham and Collier and Tower complex, the corners kept being the wrong way for the guy on the overtaking man who ended up on the outside of the corners. But very, very close. And these Porsche and these drivers are so even.
I tell you what, though, and Ben, you've seen this before, and we've seen it in real world racing as well as in online racing. The problem is when you've got a gaggle of cars like that, you make one attack. If it doesn't come off, you've got to defend straight away because everyone is so evenly matched.
Especially through there. Luckily, he does have a little bit of breathing space behind him. So if the attack failed, then he wouldn't lose a position and could get back onto the tail of that very, very pink machine. Just looking at the timing screens, we have had our first retirement. Roman DeLangelis has retired after 6 laps.
Oh, that's a very, very disappointing run for the young Porsche prodigy. Was part of the Porsche shootout. Actually, the Porsche Young shootout in the off-season, won both the US and the Canadian versions of the Cup. Oh, and who was that? Oh, that's what was that? Prio?
Prio, yeah.
That was Prio, I think, and there was a Porsche involved as well. So Sebastian Prio, all of a sudden down to 11th position. Who else was involved there? He's dropping further down. Huge shunt. That's Mark Allen again.
Getting in the way of the
That's
black.
Mark Allen, who was being lapped for a 3rd time and going airborne in the blue and orange Porsche, and that's taken, I think,
the black Ford GT.
And Richard Westbrook as well is tumbling down the order.
So that's both Fords. That's both Ford GTs.
So it must be Westbrook who got hit
I think
the 104, yeah. Because
surely
there was a black GT.
No, Prio's dropped way down as well.
Prio spun in the white car. It was a black car that hit that Wayward Porsche.
Right, okay. So Prio and Westwood there at the same part of the track. The 2 favourite Ford runners dropping down the field.
And Stephen McAleer is also in the pits. Just come out of the pits, actually. So it could have been a routine stop for him.
Too early.
Just 1 minute. Yeah, possibly. But he's only been in the pits a minute. He's back out on track now. Mason Filippi is another one to visit the pits, but just for 24 seconds.
Now, that's interesting. That's too early. I think there's about certainly another 7 or 8 minutes before we get the guys into the pit lane to be able to go to the end.
And Richard Westbrook entered the pits as well, but he entered that by using the escape button. So he'll then
he's had a tour.
So he's had basically to come in and he'll have to sit there and he will taking some time at this point. I'm not sure exactly how much time, we'll find out, but he'll get his car repaired, or he may decide that was it. But I mean, I'd like to see that instance again because he wasn't completely involved with the back marker.
So 20.
Mark Allen has retired out the race, so he will cause no further issue for us.
There might well be a sigh of relief from the rest of the field. Still a great inter-Nissan Porsche battle going on. 7th place is the number 7 in Works colours for Daniel Morad. Then the 2 pink machines behind him are Richard Highstand and Kenton Cook. Highstand with the blue front end to that car. 7th, 8th and 9th absolutely together as Sebastian Priaulx does pit in the 15 Multimatic Ford.
He did drive around.
He did drive around, yeah. Oh, and off! Down at the 7th corner, right in front of 7 at Sebring Hotel, and that was Richard Highstand. Now, did he jump or was he pushed? He had Kenton Cook right with him there. Ben, you were watching that. Was the contact?
Didn't see if there was contact. It was hard to see, but certainly it seemed as though he was removed, just lost the rear end enough to slide to the outside. I'm sure we'll pick up a replay in just a second, but he's managed to recover and he's still in 12th position, so not too much loss there.
He's dropped down ahead of Philippe Albuquerque, who is the Black and Flames Porsche in behind him. So that was that 3 Porsche battle for 7th position. We went to it spot on time at the head of the field. It's still Katzberg and Spengler, the 2 Works BMW drivers, 26 and 27, with the hashtag stay home livery this weekend.
I'm afraid Sebastian Priaulx is also retired out of the race by the looks of things. Too much damage to fix.
Let's go back to that incident at turn 7 and see if we can work out what was happening. It was the battle for 7th position. The Works coloured Porsche leading them out was Daniel Morad, and then Highstand tries to come to the right hand side down the outside. No, he just got on the dirt. He just got on the dirt with his left hand Michelin's, and the car spins around. There was no contact, so there should, in theory, Nick, be no damage to that car.
He'll be very lucky. We've taken a couple of % off his tyre wear, which is with the obviously the rears wearing heavier in the Porsche, is going to be more of an issue. He may have lost himself a lap or 2 of fresh tyres, but he got away with that on another spin.
And this time it's Morad. Daniel Morad from 7th position in the number 7. So Kenton Cook's made up 2 positions there without having to do very much indeed. Through goes Speedy Dan Clark, who's now right on the outside of the top 10, having started down in 26th position, the second of the 2 Works coloured Porsches there. That's an extraordinary run for Dan Clark, who goes to the outside, down towards turn 7. That's driver's left, gets on the brakes just between the 1 and the 2 marker, turns in behind the number 7 of Daniel Morad. Now, how is Daniel's tyres? Has he flat spotted the Michelin's? Has he taken too much out of them, as he's had a couple of incidents there?
Well, the interesting thing is, after a frenetic start, we had a very calm period of about 10-12 minutes, didn't we? And now it's all just gone crazy again. But a lot of people are overcooking it. Now, whether they are getting more relaxed, getting more comfortable and just pushing harder, or are we seeing the beginnings of tyre degradation now? John, is it the fact that the thing they did the last lap isn't working anymore? But don't forget, the track's getting dirty. There's marbles going offline is causing you issues.
Let's keep an eye on the time, because we're about 3 laps maybe away now, getting another chance to review what happened down the field with the Richard Highstand car. And did he touch? He didn't touch. Oh no, maybe he did, just across the front of Daniel Morad.
What happened is that there's Morad just slightly took his line, moved to the left, and then had jinked the same way. Highstand, and when jinking, he hit the turf. And I think he didn't actually get contact. He almost like in a fantasy of synchronized drifting.
But look at the rear wing; it is damaged. So he picked up damage somewhere. Not necessarily in that incident, but if he goes into the pits, he will have the option to fix that or to continue with the car slightly damaged.
Fabulous run.
Westbrook out of the race as well.
Oh, it's another Ford out the race. So Katzberg and Spengler, fabulous team running at the moment. Nicky Katzberg in the 26, his best a 1:57.096. Spengler, the fastest lap of the race, a 1:57.056, and lapping within a couple of 3/10 of that last time around. It's Sebring, it's iRacing, it's IMSA, and the challenge for 90 minutes here this Saturday from the VP Fuels Broadcast Centre. IMSA Radio and IMSA TV together as we are watching at the moment. Total domination by the 2 BMW Works drivers. Sage Karam is about 5.3 seconds behind in the first of the Porsches. Then it's Jesse Krohn, another BMW. That's a good battle, and Krohn's just done his fastest lap in the 24 car. He's closed up onto the back of the Porsche as they come out of Tower Turn and head down towards the Jean de Bihan bends. Then Shinji Mishimi is in the black and light blue Porsche, and then it's Mirko Bortolotti in the Triple 8, which is the black and, if you like, Conrad coloured car. It's almost the old Miami blue of Conrad, isn't it? That's a fantastic looking car. Then it's Shinja Mishimi in 6th. Kenton Cook now up to 7th. Shinya in the, well, I suppose you'd call that ginger or bronze car, Shinja Mishimi, as we run through the field. Behind Shinja, about another 2.7 seconds further back, the bright pink 63 Porsche of Kenton Cook. He's trying to chase him down into turn 17 now. Behind Kenton, 101. That is Corey Lewis. He's about to the 1.4 seconds behind 7th place. And rounding off the top 10, 85 Tristan Fortier, who had issues earlier on, but he's fighting his way back into the top 10. And Daniel Morad, also with issues earlier on, into the top 10. And there's a new third place. Jesse Cron has just gone by Sage Karam. This happened just a moment or two ago while we were doing the run through the field. Sage Karam then in the Porsche down through the Jean de Bian bends, down towards the 16th corner Le Mans, gets onto the Ullman straight pretty well, but not as well maybe as the BMW, who gets a good run in the slipstream. And is this going to be the classic pass down the inside? Is that where third place changed? Pulling out about halfway down where the exit of the WEC pits would have been this weekend. Wow, the BMW had the ponies there, Nick. That was done before the braking area for 17.
It was a better run off Le Mans, really, and you start by carrying 5 or 6 miles an hour more, and you just, as you accelerate down that long straight and you gain the aerodynamic slipstream, it's just enough to get you past.
A lot of Mickey Heth, Michael Hetherington says it's brilliant. Even the 911s have that proper RSR rasp. Dave Alcock, we know this isn't the same as actually being at Sebring, but congratulations and thanks to the team that pulled this together. This is great entertainment. I'm an iRacer and a huge endurance fan. I'm a bit overwhelmed, says Chris Coughlin on at IMSA Radio. Keep the tweets coming in to
John,
IMSA Radio. Go, Ben.
Sorry, John. Monitoring the... we're in different places, by the way, just so you...
It's all right. We talk over each other in real life as well, Ben. It's fine.
Just monitoring the bottom end of our timing screens, and we've lost Richard Highstand. He's out of the race. It looked as though he was having a good battle with Daniel Clark, and then all of a sudden he went grey, and that means he's out. So we've lost another of our leading contenders. Jerome Blakemolen down in 37th position, again for a second time back in the pits, making a big old fix. Don't know how long that fix is going to take, but he's still online. Alex Prema in 39th position, back in the pits after another accident. So we've got some big names at the tail of our field, and Philippe Albuquerque has just entered pit lane as well.
I think that, Ben, with half an hour's gone, I think that's the first scheduled pit stop. Now, Albuquerque will need to keep an eye, Ben will keep an eye on this, as to how long Philippe Albuquerque is in the pit lane for full service. A full drop of fuel and tyres, that would be about 1 minute 25 from pit in to pit out. He won't need that, but he might put on a brand new set of Michelin tyres. That would take about 27 tyres, 28 seconds, and then there'll be some fuel, probably around about 20 seconds worth, to get him to the end from there. And we've had a change of leader at the head of the field. Yes. Bruno Sprengler is at the head of the field, ahead of his teammate Nicky Katzberg. That happened going down towards turn 7 into the Hotel Hairpin, if you want, in right in front of 7 at Sebring, the new name for the hotel. And oh no, it didn't happen. Yes, it did, because the 26 of Nicky Katzberg just slightly outbraked himself.
Mistake, or was that an outbraking mistake, or was that a very, very efficient way of just changing round, letting the other cars lead?
Well,
worrying about engine temperature, worrying about perhaps you can save a little bit of fuel by following rather than leading.
I don't think I would have wanted to be out on that dirty part of the track. No, I think that was a tiny little mistake there. Yeah. Ben, mistake for you or team orders?
Absolutely mistake. Yeah, absolutely. Just run a little bit deep into the corner there. I love that view when you can see the rear view mirror inside the car looking back. And
the screen, yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. The screen and all the detail that you see in car, really great to see. These two are working together though, aren't they? BMW flags flying strong for these two right now. and they're doing a really good job of it.
Spengler has the fastest lap of the race, and not surprising with that mistake, last lap around, he was almost a full second quicker than his teammate, and he has put a little bit of a gap into Katzberg, although he's coming back now through Big Bend. Now, Albuquerque is out of the pits. Philippe Albuquerque is out of the pits with what we think was the first of the scheduled pit stop. He dropped down to 29th position, but crucially stayed on the lead lap, Nick. That's really important. So I think that was certainly fuel, and probably I think he's bunged a new set of Michelins on, and he'll go at the end from here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have a short field, which you obviously need, then you've got 25 minutes of fuel to put into it. Then the point is, you're going to try and go down the pit lane, get an advantage out of it, put a new set of tyres. Obviously, he'll end up in free air now. So he'll be on his own. Hopefully he doesn't get bothered by the leaders, and he can start concentrating, putting down some laps and making up the gaps and overtaking people who aren't actually there because they haven't pitted yet.
Yeah, good point. See what you're seeing. Just outside the top 10, Speedy Dan Clark has carved his way from 26th position in the Porsche up to 11th position, and Gavi Chavez in the in the red and grey BMW is right up his aerofoil at the back of the car at the moment as they come out of Collier and down towards turn 12 and 13.
And it's a great little battle down there. You've got Tristan Vautier 9th, you've got Dan Clark in 11th, and Gabi Chavez in 12th, and they are within a couple of seconds of each other.
Now, going down towards turn 1 a moment or two ago, all kinds of strife with a big pile-up. Santino Ferrucci got his way up to 25th position. Now, he saves it, but watch what happens next as he carves back across the track. Not 1, not 2, not 3.
Oh.
Yeah, 3. Extra cars, 4-car pile-up, and Santi Ferrucci was the cause of all of that, and there's some bent machinery that will not be anywhere near their optimal at the moment.
And Santino's, obviously that was a massive amount of carnage caused by a very innocent little mistake. Just got it wrong at turn 1, went wide onto the outside into the beginnings of the short shoot up to turn 2, got a massive tank slapper on, skidded back in front of the track, and suddenly it was that cascade effect as other cars just pinged into him like a very expensive game of 10-pin bowling.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were all back markers-ish by the looks of things. None of our top 20 have descended the leaderboard, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make much of a difference, but it doesn't look like anybody's in our top 20 has come to harm in that accident, and I think they were guys that have already had some strife already.
Ben, you're watching pit times. Philippe Albuquerque in the number 103. What was his pit stop time, so we can try and work out what we think? He wouldn't have needed a full tank of fuel in that car because he'd only run 30 minutes in that machine. So what do we think?
Well, I think you're pretty much spot on. 55 seconds stopped, a full pit stop of 1 minute 18 seconds. So if he had a little bit less fuel to put in, then that's about bang on.
So do you think no tyres then for him, or do you think he's put a new set of Michelins on that as well on the Porsche?
24 seconds to change a set of tyres. I would say that, yeah, I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it? About half a tank of fuel, or less than half a tank of fuel, plus 24 seconds for the tyres, could be bang on.
Perhaps a little repair as well, little 10-second repair. So
yeah, well, exactly.
He's tweaked and pinged, but that's you often get that option within the pit stops to do a kind of a minor repair, and that'll give you just back onto the cars. Back to 100% again, or 95.
Hello to the Dallywall family who are tuned in here in the UK, IMSA Radio, iRacing, IMSA TV, all together. However you're watching or listening, welcome along. This is real IMSA drivers on a virtual IMSA track, all in GT Le Mans cars. Big sideways moment for Albuquerque out of the pit. He does not want to give the position up in the black BMW to Stephen McAleer.
McAleer's in the BMW.
Excuse me, I've got those the wrong way around. My apologies. He wants to gain that position back. Thank you, Ben. Because he's out of the pits and McAleer is holding him up at this point, and this is his strategy, Ben, going for a Burton here if he can't clear that BMW.
Well, remember, McAleer went into the pits a good 8 laps ago. It was a short.
He's gone wide.
Just 25, 6. Oh, there we go. And he's gone wide, and he's back on the track again. So no harm done. But he's been in the pits for 25 seconds. Could have been a tyre change. Would have got much fuel, but it was 8 laps ago. Seems to be running pretty well, but certainly doesn't have the pace of Albuquerque, who's now set off to try and chase down Seth Thomas, who is 20 seconds up the road.
Last 2 cars on the lead lap. Now, interestingly, the car behind them, Harry Ticknell, we know had early problems. Of the 46 cars that started, already 17 have run into issues in the first half hour.
Yeah, that's attrition for you that we're not used to seeing that. And
Dalton Kellett, sorry. Can't read my pixelated timing screen. He's now in the pits, so he's 26th. Philippe Albuquerque just passed him, and let's see what kind of pit stop this is as well.
Let's go back to the incident between Albuquerque and Stephen McAleer. And coming down towards 7, was there a bump here between Albuquerque and McAleer? Well, McAleer got very, very sideways, and there was a touch. Philippe Albuquerque didn't really want to lose his momentum coming out of 7. And a couple of corners further on at Tower Turn is when the position was actually made, and that position was made up. Still a bit of a rub on the back of Stephen McAleer's BMW. Now, was Stephen pushed or did he jump here with Albuquerque? I think realising that the back tyres of that BMW were in trouble. Now it's just a mistake, just wide from Stephen McAleer going through that corner. Stephen, former MX5 Cup champion, has a younger brother who, in the year that Stephen was MX5 Cup reigning champion, I think, on the iRacing MX5 Cup Championship, Stephen's younger brother beat him in the championship race, if memory serves.
That must make for an interesting Christmas dinner about who's the best, isn't it? I get the card to meet this time, Steve.
Yes, absolutely. Spengler and Katzberg, 0.8 of a second ahead, and then it's 6.3 seconds back to the third place BMW of Jesse Krohn, the 24. And the leaders now coming to put a lap on Stephen McAleer. Then it's Sage Karam, the first of the Porsches in the 8. Merkel Bortolotti is the 888, but they're 1.5 and 9 seconds consecutively further back, not consecutively. Shinya Mishimi running a steady 6th at the moment. He's 23 seconds off the lead, not insurmountable. He's got a bit of pressure from Kenton Cook, who's made up a few places in the 63 bright pink Porsche. He's in 7th, and he's right on the tail of the 86 of Mishimi in 6th position.
As we know, that Shinya is the most experienced and second highest rated driver here.
Sage Karam and Shinya,
huge
correct.
amount of racing. Now, do you possibly think that Shinya is the man who's thinking, right, I can make these tyres last the entire hour and a half? Because he's been drifting back, and for a man who's very quick, he's drifting back slowly and thinking, you know what, I don't have to stop. He'll get that half minute back later on.
Well, and Sage Karam's done the same thing. The problem is, it's going to cost him 27... what you've got to think of is how much dare you lose. You can only lose 27 seconds to the people you're racing, because that's all it takes for them to put a new set of tyres on. And you probably can't really lose that much, because they'll have a performance advantage with a new set of Mitchies on at the end of the race.
But of course, taking into account, it may just be that Bruno and Nicky are just quicker than the field anyway, and therefore your race effectively is against your optimal strategy. And it may be that you're taking past Jesse Krohn, it may take it past Sage, it may take Mirko Bertolotti, but there has been a kind of a spread now. Spengler now has put a 1.2 second lead on Katzberg 6.2 from Jesse Krohn. Then Sage Karam was overtaken a couple of laps back, he's 1.4 down. Then Bertolotti's back 9.3, and Kenton's 6, and Shinya is now... Actually, Shinja's been overtaken by Kenton Cook, hasn't he?
Correct. Kenton Cook's just gone through on Shinja. That was 6th and 7th position. And Shinja just dropping back. So maybe there's something in that. Tristan Vorti is the next driver back, but he's a good 9.5 seconds further back. The two leaders just drifting apart a little bit as Bruno Spengler. Last time around there was nothing between them, but he's just eased out to a second or so, just giving himself a bit of breathing space as he's coming to... Oh, now this is important. The leaders are important because they're coming in, I think, to lap Philippe Albuquerque, who's the first, I reckon, of the pit stoppers. I reckon Philippe Albuquerque, Ben, is the first of the cars that have made what we would call a regular pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely he is. Another car that's just gone into the pits, which is a big shock actually. Michael Johnson has a fantastic iRacing rating, but unfortunately he's had an accident, and he is having a lengthy pit stop now in 30th position. Also in the pits, Tinknell, I think he's had an accident recently. His pit stop is running way longer than it should have done. So lots of things happening outside of our top 20, but the top 20 is stable.
40 Ford.
James Pesek,
who we've seen winning all kinds of machinery. And he's with the 101 of Corey Lewis, side by side. The PF racing car. Oh, gets into the back of Corey and turns that car around. And the Porsche gets the worst of that. PF racing colours we see in that colourway on the Ford Mustang normally in IMSA Racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Back to the leader, Bruno Spengler. Then rear wing on the Porsche ahead of him. Now that I don't think is Albuquerque, is it? No, it's not.
Nope.
So Albuquerque's already gone a lap back. He's gone a lap back to both of the BMWs. Needs driving there by, was that Seth Thomas that they've just gone by in the 81?
Should be, yeah. From Albuquerque.
No, I think it might be a lap car actually. My apologies. But the leaders all going through. The key thing here for Albuquerque, isn't it, just to keep those two BMWs, Ben Constanduris, in sight, because although they've put him a lap down, he's got his pit stop done. He can't let them get away too far if he's going to make that early stop strategy work.
Yeah, so he lost 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now a lap is 1 minute or basically 2 minutes. So he's still quite a way back from those leading two, even if he is running a decent pace right now. 150. Well, last lap was a 2 minute lap, but that was because he was going through some traffic.
Hello to David Baker. Nice to know that you're tuned in. Hearing arguably the voices of endurance racing on our virtual sport is amazing. That's very kind of you, David. It's an honour for us to be here. We've all been involved in the virtual worlds. Some of us, I'm thinking about myself here, have been involved for so long. We were doing it before it was even called eSports. To be honest, sports. Do you remember Sports Car GT? Way back in the day.
Had that?
Yeah.
I didn't know any of the. I didn't follow the ALMS. I knew no what the tracks were.
We, Joe Bradley, Gary Dodds, and I ran McLaren's F1s in IMSA Radio logos. And if you listen very careful in the background of that, the PA announcer is our great friend, the sadly now late and much lamented Jim Martin, one of the great voices of North American and Canadian motorsport, and that was his voice in my very first commentary in the US at Petit Le Mans in the end of 1998. I worked with Jim, and as soon as he started talking, I realised I knew who he was from what I'd heard on Sports Car GT, and that was the start of a great commentary relationship with Jim, who we lost last year. Big loss to our sport. Here we've still got, well, we're half distance, aren't we, guys? 44, call it 45 minutes to go, so we don't change ends, have a cup of tea and an orange slice here, but we have got two 45-minute halves, and it will be a race of two halves here, to use the soccer metaphor, because it will be all about what goes on in the second half of the race. Remember our Porsche keys to the race: stay on the lead lap. Well, there are still 23 cars. Seth Thomas is the last driver on the lead lap in the number 81. Keep it clean. Plenty of people not done that, with getting on now for 18, 19 cars who've had some kind of damage or incident. And the tyres. That was our third Porsche key to the race. Has Albuquerque got it right? He stopped, and we reckon he splashed the fuel, but did go for a new set of Michelins. Does that mean he'll have better rubber at the end? And will the two BMWs ahead of him, who are a lap and a few seconds ahead of him, will they change their tyres in the second half of the race? And when will they take their fuel stops? We've already seen fuel stops done. It's still Philippe Albuquerque in the 103 in 24th position, who is the best of the pit stopper cars. First half of the race, Ben Constanduris, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting to see these two BMW drivers running line astern. Just a little mistake from Nicky Katzberg, giving Bruno Spengler the advantage. big surprise for me to see Bruno running so consistently. He has struggled previously, perhaps maybe not on this platform, but on other platforms with that consistency. It's looking really good for him. Very impressed with Jesse Crone up in third position, a B licensed driver, but still putting some of the A licensed drivers to shame. And also very impressed with the likes of Santonio Furici, Jerome Blukemolen and Alex Premar. They are way down. They are 12, 15 laps back, but they're still plodding on. They're still going round. They haven't control alt deleted and gone and made a cup of coffee.
Yeah, good spirit of the race there. We'll have time after the race to speak to some of the drivers in our Michelin post-race tech. Nick Damon, halfway through the race, 20 laps completed. I'll give you the predictions in the moment, but your thoughts about what you've seen so far. There've been some very good and very consistent racing here.
Yeah, I think the lead cars have done an exceptional job, and so there's the BMW twins have been showing a fantastic form, and they are flying, apart from that one mistake. I think it's very, very interesting how it's all into two groups, almost by accident, by the accidents other people have been having. We've lost almost third to four-fifths of Screes has gone out of the running, but the guys at the front are running incredibly consistency, and this run by the two BMWs is remarkable. They've got the biggest split they've ever had, just because Nicky Katzberg found it more difficult to get past the back marker than Bruno Spengler did. That's still 1.1 seconds.
Hello to Paul Taylor. Difficult time for everyone at the moment. Amazing to see motorsport community engaging with sim racing. Great to see the pros getting behind it. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, we're predicting now at 43 laps, so 22 to go from here, and getting through the traffic, always an issue in these longer races. Nicky Katzberg, was there a little bump with a fellow BMW there? Oh, there was indeed. Nicky Katzberg coming through turn 4 and into turn 5. Just a little bit of a tap.
And you could see on the rear view TV screen the damage the car had. It was missing its entire front splitter. And effectively, the car lost momentum through the corner. Where was Katzberg supposed to go?
Yeah, and that's a difficult little wiggly section there.
Very, very difficult.
2, 3 and 4.
Nasty.
Yeah, and you do need your front end.
And 5 is way sharper than you think it is.
Oh, yes.
Trust me, I've hit a number of walls down there over the last 24 hours.
It almost feels like 5 tightens. It doesn't look like it on the track map. Easy to get a lot of understeer there, as you've ever seen the ZF race report that I did with Tom Christensen in an RS5 around there. I was told that Tom didn't like understeer, so I was inducing it everywhere I could, of course, for effect. Very easy to get it around there. Right, into the second half of the race, or thereabouts. As I say, we're predicting 43 laps on this one, so 21 to go. Still no stops for anyone inside the top 10.
It looks like
but an interesting pit stop from Dakota Dickerson.
Yes.
25 seconds, so that is a tyre stop. Or fuel.
It'll have to be fuel.
I think that's fuel.
You can't just say tyres, because you'll stop after an hour and 5 minutes.
So that's fuel. He's going to try and go to the end from there, isn't he?
Yep, no tyres.
On one set of tyres.
On one set of tyres. Dakota Dickerson, great young American driver. And
maybe there for Stephen McAleer's pit stop at the start of now 15 laps ago, that was again 25 seconds. Maybe that was the same kind of strategy, although it shouldn't have been the same time, because he would have had less fuel to top up on.
Well, pleased that Colleen Evans-Allen was listening a few moments ago. I didn't know whether you would be, Colleen, but I'm pleased you were. You're in our thoughts always, and the family. You know that. 50 minutes gone then, and heading well into the second half of the race now, with Bruno Spengler and Nicky Katzberg. 157.5 for the leader. Katzberg a 157.9. That's against the best overall lap time of a 57.0. What I'm seeing here, Nick Damon, is what we were talking about earlier on. The BMW M8 GT Le Mans car is an exceedingly good car to drive. It's a good platform, and they're still knocking out good times.
And the time you want to have the car that's, in inverted commas, easy to drive is the time when you're carving through the traffic. You don't want something that's edgy when you're having to react to the other drivers' actions. We've seen a couple of times that other drivers' actions have taken out people who try to lap them. But again, it's looking at the moment like Spengler's just doing slightly better than Nicky Catsbow through the traffic.
Looking at the mid-teens, and Tyler Cook in the blue and white BMW has Parker Chase behind him. Parker, who's run some of the IMSA races in the past, as well as having a oval career, stock car career. Ben Waddell not too far behind them. That's one of the better scraps on the track at the moment. Also got a decent scrap going on for 8th and 9th. Tristan Vautier in the 85 is just ahead of Daniel Morad in the 7th. That's Works coloured Porsche. They are on the far side of the circuit. No, they're not. They're just going through Big Bend underneath the bridge, which was reprofiled last year to get two-way traffic on it. And here comes Morad. Great time to pick this one up down towards turn 7. Classic overtaking manoeuvre down the inside at turn 7 in front of the hotel. What was it we said a few years ago when that pass was made like a thermic lance through a muffin? Well, it was decisive, and Morad has gone through. We've seen some cracking overtaking manoeuvres down through the years from Pipo Durrani there in prototypes, and before that as well from Audi drivers who like to make that place their own. Well, that's a change of position. The Porsche going through. Classic pass at Sebring. Came out a Big Bend. Got right underneath the back end of the BMW, which is quite a big car. It makes a decent sized hole in the air. And Daniel Morad's got a bit of experience around here. Driven in Porsche Cup as well as in the IMSA Championship. Just a tiny bit later on the brakes. Rolls off the brakes as he gets to the apex so that he doesn't have a problem.
Good drive by Tristan Vautier as well. He could see it had happened. He wasn't going to fight. He wasn't going to swipe across the front. And we're getting to the point now of when the driver's going to blink, because we are, just 42 minutes left to run of the race.
Well, they're in the window.
Right, no, we're fat in the window.
The window is the middle hour.
Yeah, the next 15 minutes, we think they're going to get to an hour at least. Do you literally hang it out that long, or do you just take an opportunist look at when there's a bit of traffic going on? And it's interesting, by the way, Spengler's still stretching the lead during this traffic. He's now 1.8 seconds ahead of Catsbow, which is the biggest gap we've seen between first and second in the entirety of this race.
The other overtake down there at 7 that I remembered was in the Dyson, actually, with Emmanuel Pirot behind the wheel. He made a cracking overtake there in the early laps of a race, which was probably the overtake of the year in the first race.
Did he use the vacuum caused by other cars?
He was fantastic down there on the brakes, was Pirot.
A tweet that's amused me that I've just picked up on is from Richard Westbrook, who he lost quite early on in the race in that big shunt. I think he may have thrown toys out of pram.
Oh, really?
Sim for sale, DM me if you're interested. Unfortunately, quite a few people have taken him seriously. So he's now got a bidding war going on Twitter regarding his sim setup. But
it did
we
look
lost
like a
him early on. He did quite well, actually, didn't he? And performance-wise, I was well impressed with where he was at.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello to Tom Aitken, who's watching and listening on IMSA Radio, at IMSA Radio. Owen Trinkler will probably buy the sim from Westy. I know he's sitting up in Nashville. Owen, sorry, I just saw your message to me about getting involved. A little bit too late for us to make that happen technically, but I've got a suspicion that Jen which is Owen's wife, is going to be clearing out a bit of the garage so that Owen can make some space if this goes the way we think it is in the next few months. And let's hope that this is the first of many IMSA races with IMSA Pro drivers here on iRacing. The IMSA Radio team, Ben Constanduris and Nick Damon joining me, John Hindorf, in the VP Racing Fuels Broadcast Centre as we're continuing to watch the BMW twins drive away at the front of the field. Further down,
Chase, the 19, the light green car, Uto, the Sparco sponsorship.
That's a nice sort of graded livery.
Someone's been on the livery exchange.
Who did you say that was, sorry?
That's Parker Chase.
Okay, yes, of course it is.
Gorman in the pit.
Yes, coming in from 13th position, and we're starting to see Ben Constanduris, some of the higher runners now. We've still got, I reckon, maybe 4 possibly 5 more laps of fuel left. But Tom O'Gorman in the 95 BMW in, and I would think this will be fuel only. Let's see what the time is, Ben.
Yep, so he came in from just outside the top 10, didn't he?
13th, yeah.
14th position. And 26 seconds. No, it continues. So this is a longer pit stop.
Oh, he's doing tyres. He's doing tyres.
Atkinson as well, yeah.
He's doing tyres. So now that's interesting. So Tom O'Gorman then with fuel, and the car came up on its jacks, so he's definitely doing tyres, and this is really important. Nico Ronde in as well in the 108, the man from Sim Raceway Racing School, the man who was brave enough to sit next to me in an Audi TT around Sonoma for my first laps at speed. Felipe Nasser is in as well in the 31. Again, all these guys from the middle part of the teens, but the 2 BMWs, Nick, at the front of the field continue to circulate. I reckon they've got another couple of laps. And is Katzberg closing in just a tiny bit?
Obviously had a better run. It's come back from 1.8 down to a second. Now the question is, obviously, we've had all the cars around Felipe Albuquerque come in. Has his early pit stop paid? And is he now ahead of Tom O'Gorman and Nico Ronde and everyone else? So battles all the way through the field, and we've got a battle for the bottom end of the top 10.
Yeah, 9th position. Gabby Chavez in the 33 has got Tristan Vautier right in his wheel tracks as they head down towards turn 1, and there are cars ahead of them, but they are lap runners as they go through the insanely quick turn 1. I remember standing on the outside of turn 1 watching the old LMP2 cars in the ELMS days going through there, and watching the Andretti car with Marco Andretti go through there flat out 6 times in a row, and I still can't actually believe that I saw that.
And looking at those 4 cars, they are having a mighty scrap. Now the car one place behind them as his starting scrap was Speedy Dan Clark, and Dan came into the pits. He could see ahead of him 4 cars scrapping. I'm not going to get past them. Let's go in the pits, see if I can pass them virtually in a virtual event when they're not actually occupying the space and get them doing an undercut.
And he's doing tyres as well, Nick. He's up on his jacks and he's over 25 seconds. So that is a full pit stop for him, like it was for Nico Ronde, like it was for Felipe Albuquerque a little bit earlier on, and Tom O'Gorman. So we're seeing a full service for all these guys. Michael Lewis did pits, last lap. He just went 36 seconds, so I don't think he took tyres.
I just wonder whether the BMWs, what they're going to do. It'll be shorter on fuel, but will they want to take tyres or not? That's the question. Seems as though everybody so far has. Oh, on the outside of turn 1, that was a BMW.
One of the already damaged ones.
Ah, right, okay. I think that was the car that had lost its front splitter earlier on, wasn't it? And that's probably why it went straight on at turn 1.
They'll continue to lap Spengler from Katzberg. They've been in first and second, or second and first the whole way through. A mistake by Katzberg sort of halfway through this. We ran this race about 20 minutes ago. Let Spengler through, overcooked it here at turn 7. But Katzberg over dropping behind during the start of the lapping procedures. Now back as close as you want to be, which is 6/10, 7/10 a second behind the leader. Of course, the key thing is that no one yet in the top 11 has come into the pits.
Well, just to prove this is just like real life, I managed to put Emmanuel Pirro in the wrong car when I was talking about his brilliant overtaking earlier on. I said Dyson, and in fact it was the Drayson Lola that it was in that year. So your joke didn't work either way.
It was only a couple of letters wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah, and thank you Declan Brennan for reminding me at IMSA Radio, and that's how you get in touch with us. Been absolutely brilliant stuff so far through turn 17 at the moment, side by side.
Chase and Cook, Tyler Cock and Parker Chase.
A quick.
Oh, that was a bit naughty. Sorry, Ben. A bit of side-by-side action and a bit of blocking going down the front straight there by Tyler Cook, trying to hold back the 19. They're hitting each other in the rough.
Well.
That's a huge one off the driver's right between 1 and 2, and neither of them are going to get away with that kind of incident. And indeed, the steering damage to the 82, rear suspension as well on Tyler Cook's car, and it looks like Parker Chase is also in problem. Ben Waddell went through there, and Paul Holton, well, Paul's off the lead lap there, but he's just done his fastest lap, Paul Holton, and then come into the pits, so he's going to the end from here. Well, that you could see that brewing, couldn't you, from further back down the pit straight when there was a bit of blocking going on. Jeremy wouldn't have liked that. He
No,
doesn't like people moving around on the
There
straight.
was a lot of moving in the braking area there, and it was kind of like an argument that was starting, and then it came to a dramatic conclusion, as is the conclusion beginning to start for the race itself, John.
Well, top drivers now, Ben, coming into the pit lane. 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th all coming in. That's the 8 Porsche of Sage Karam, the 888 of Mirko Bortolotti, the 63. These are all Porsches of Kenton Cook and Shinya Mishimi. The incident that has just taken 2 BMWs out started down the front straight. It was a nice run and a big dive to the inside. Parker Chase and Tyler Cook having a real big battle, and then coming together, and both of them damaged.
I don't think Parker Chase is ever going to make that corner. No. I think he got annoyed, or he got a much more of a slip than he was used to. His brake marks were completely wrong there.
So Karam back out of the pit.
Interesting pit stops from the guys in front. 22 seconds from Sage Karam.
Fuel only.
Bortolotti 23, Bosch 22, Mishimi 21 seconds, and Casey Lewis.
Corey Lewis.
Corey Lewis.
Sorry.
Is about to get to 22 seconds
Well,
as well. Will he exit the pits? Not yet, so he's maybe going longer.
So here's the Porsche keys to the race. We said, and the tyres, and when do we take the fuel stop? We also talked, did we not, gentlemen, about the experience of Sage Karam and Shinya Mishimi, who have the best driver rating of this field on iRacing, and they paced themselves, Nick Damon, through the early part of the race, and now they are fueled to the end, but they haven't taken tyres, and then both of the leaders are in together as they come down the pit lane. Spengler from Katzberg, there was nothing between them on the pit lane as they look now. This one we're going to have to keep an eye on. Do the 2 BMWs take their pit stop and take their tyres, as also Ben Waddell and Corey Lewis have come into the pits. Tyler Cook.
Jesse Cron from 3rd as well, John.
Jesse Cron from 3rd, just pulling in the black car behind the 2 leaders. So question for me then is where's Sage Karam? Daniel Morad will have gone through into the lead. Oh, that
Top
was
2 are rolling, fuel only.
fuel only for the top 2.
I'm sure, but I think they changed positions as well. It's hard to tell because of the way the graphics work, but who knows?
Spengler ahead of Katzberg.
Still scored a Spengler ahead. It looked like they'd gone round, but there wasn't the way.
Right, so question for me is where is Sage Karam? Should be coming across the line any time now, but that's the 2 BMWs at the front of the field. Spengler and Katzberg and Jesse Cron all fueled to the end, and they've taken their pitch stop. Sage Karam comes through in 4th now, but hasn't been able to bring them back. No, I don't think, because the
It was a slower stop as well for Sage Karam. He was 2.5 seconds slower than the 2 BMWs, who did 20.7 stops. Sage Karam did a 22.3, so lost 2 seconds in the pits.
Is that at stationary time? Was that just the difference in fuel? How tight are the BMWs on fuel then, Ben? That's what we've got to ask ourselves. 2.5 seconds difference in fuel. That's what's that? That's 7.5 litres. That's 7.5 litres difference that has gone into those 2 BMWs. 7.5 fewer litres into the 2 BMWs than went into Sage Karam in 4th position. Now, how tight is that going to make it at the end, Ben?
I've got an idea for you. Maybe the 2 BMWs were playing the team game and towing each other around. We saw about halfway into the stint, they swapped round. It looked like it was a mistake. There's another mistake from 103. That's Philippe Albuquerque off the track. Maybe they were preserving fuel by doing that as well.
Yeah, well, that was my thought when we saw Nicky Katzberg go wide, but it did seem like, as John pointed out, not the best place to let someone through. So, but perhaps it's worked out serendipitously that they've now managed to do that kind of tow round, almost like they're doing a velodrome action in the team sprint event. And that will save them some time. But also, they've been very, very clean and probably had a chance to actually pace themselves as they wish to go.
Yeah. Hello to Cody, virtually sitting on the mound at turn 10, passing around a flask of whiskey with friends from Wisconsin, New York State, Germany and everywhere else. That is a great way to spend your Sunday here on iRacing with IMSA, live from our VP Fueled broadcast centre. Been plenty of action.
The Albuquerque had this problem, I think, with Silco again.
So there goes the 103 down the inside. And it gets nailed by the 84. That's extraordinary. So that was Albuquerque getting absolutely nailed at turn 17 by a car. I reckon he was
Seth
lapping.
Thomas.
That was
Seth Thomas.
And Seth
81
was it? Okay, excuse me. And that was a car he was lapping, Ben.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Seth's obviously been in the wars by the looks of the front end of that car already. So struggling, bit of understeer. We saw it already with that car not being able to get off the corner and getting in the way of Nicky Katzberg. I mean, look at it. It's just missing the front end.
Yeah.
Can't get it slowed down, can't get it turned, and gets caught up with Albuquerque. Luckily, not too much damage for Albuquerque. Still sits in 16th spot.
Drifting.
Meantime, the 55 Ford, which is back on the track, that's Harry Tinknell, isn't it, in the black Ford. He's gone sideways into the wall at turn 17, right ahead of that incident. Hello.
You can visualise Harry sitting at home in Putney laughing at himself for doing something like that, can't you? Just be enjoying himself. He's one of the last runners down in 34th position. He's a good couple of laps off the lead, having many a problem, but obviously still enjoying being part of this.
Hello to Steph Neff. I'm sitting at turn 6 or thereabouts by the Corvette Bridge in my lawn chair with RSL in my ear. Of course, I'm at home in front of my desk watching iRacing, but we know what you mean. Thanks for joining us. Big audience for this 90 minutes event, which is coming down into the last 28 minutes. We're predicting now 44 laps, and there's 13 to go. What are you guys laughing at?
I think Albuquerque just got a bit of revenge. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. Helped him out of the way.
He gave Seth Thomas a little bit of a nudge at the end of the main straight into the hairpin at 7. A little bit of nudge off.
As Paul Barfield always says, IMSA's race director, always race the way you want, race against others the way you want to be raced against. Well, seems as though Felipe was not best pleased going down towards turn 7 under the Mobile One Bridge and just lets the brake off. And would you mind going straight on out my way, Seth?
No, I just missed the breaking point. It was a problem. Oh no.
Last one on the lead lap. Yes, it was very professionally done. Last one on the lead lap, Albuquerque. Only 16 cars at the moment running on the lead lap. First man off the lead lap, Felipe Nasr running with his IMSA number, the 31 car in 16th. Check that, 17th position. Then it's also off the lead lap, Paul Holton, 5.8 seconds further back. Then Nico Ronday, Michael Lewis, Gregory Leefuger. They've all had issues, as has Dalton Keller. Jeff Siegel hasn't featured as I thought he might in the 69 car. Seth Thomas we've talked about. Parker Chase, James Pesek and Tyler Cook all in the pits. James Pesek for the second time. Meantime, at the front of the field, we have still got the 2 BMWs, maybe like the 3 BMWs, separated by 1.1 seconds the first two, and then 10 seconds back to Jesse Cron, and then Sage Karam 12 seconds further back. The Porsches as yet, Nick Damon, not being able to take the fight to the BMW M8 GTLMs at the front of the field.
Top 3, and certainly they are seemingly the easiest cars to drive, seemingly the easiest cars to put down a constant time. Now, interesting, the last time around, Spengler just gapped Katzberg by a couple of tenths the last couple of laps. They haven't seemed, from what when we had them on the picture, to do much lapping. So I'm wondering now whether Spengler is pulling the proverbial pin and now trying to put some gap between them. So we've got enough fuel to the end, we can stop playing the team game. I'm now going to try and win this race.
But look at the pace that even Nicky Katzberg's doing. Last lap versus leader versus previous rather than the fastest. The fastest is the 57.0. So they're still well off that fastest lap from the start of the race. Some really, really impressive pace from these front two, stretching the advantage.
Not that far off. They're only half a second and 7/10.
Got an hour and 10 the tyres
and
as well.
The tyres have run since the start.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they didn't change tyres.
No, they did change tyres. So this has been a good run. Remember, I reckon, I don't think Jesse Cron changed tyres either.
No.
So I reckon the top 7 are on the tyres they started, and maybe Gavi Chavez as well. Yeah. Do you think Chavez and Morad as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Clark is the first driver to have new tyres, and you can see it in his times. A 58.0 is his fastest lap time throughout the race, and he's just on a 58.2. So he's able to really run very fast. But everyone above that, we're in the pits for less than 25 seconds.
Problem is, Dan Clark's a minute and a half or thereabouts behind the leader in 11th position. But let's not forget, Dan had no choice. He started down in 26th position, made up 13 positions fairly short order, and took the life out of his Michelins early on. Played a different game to what was going on at the head of the field, and that is why you need to qualify at the sharp end of the field. Philip Albuquerque and Ben Waddell battling together, 15th and 16th position, both Porsches. Philip Albuquerque with a actually fairly undamaged Porsche after professionally removing one of his competitors earlier on, who'd rather ruined his charge back up the field. Remember, Albuquerque was the first into the pit stick, wasn't he, to try the early pit stop and run to the end, and he got caught in traffic and then had that incident at turn 17, which cost him time. It hasn't worked for him.
No, well, I don't think he's ever going to be up in the top 5, but certainly that second spin has cost him, looking at the timing screen now, it's probably cost him at least 5 or 6 places. He should have been in the gap between Dan Clark and Tom O'Gorman without that, which so there are some holes to drop into. But Ben Waddell, who we haven't spoken about now, last on the lead lap, but really putting in a good performance at this point.
Yeah, it really is.
I've just been monitoring the YouTube stream from iRacing, and we've got a fantastic crowd of people watching from there, including one Lando Norris, who's dipped his head in to see what this is all about. So Lando's got lots and lots of commitments to sim racing across the next few days, but perhaps I suppose he's not eligible for this. He doesn't race in IMSA, so he couldn't enter. But great to see Lando. Thanks for dipping in and saying hello.
All he's got to do is come and do an IMSA race. That's all he's got to do. I think I'm sure we could find some place for
a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Waddell, Porsche driver extraordinaire.
And IPC graduate is the bit of tip I've got from Shay.
That means IMSA Prototype Challenge. Yes. But he's driven Porsches in the past as well. Another one of the plethora of drivers from all kinds of racing, but who've got some IMSA connection, either in IMSA Prototype Challenge, Michelin Pilot Challenge, or indeed in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Even if their day job, if you will, is doing other things. And we've got a couple of IndyCar drivers here, Sage Karam, of course, but he's done IMSA races too. So this is hopefully the prototype for more of this through the year. Hello to Tony DeZino, TDZ, tuned in. Hope you caught the Michelin Countdown to Green earlier on. We will have a bit of Michelin post-race tech with some driver interviews as well once the checkered flag has fallen in around about 22 minutes time. It's Ben Constanduris, Nick Damon and me, John Hindhaugh, in the IMSA Radio VP Racing Fuel Broadcast Centre as we continue to watch this fascinating battle at the front of the field between the two BMWs and the battles further down as well. I think now what we've got to say, gentlemen, and all things being equal, let's pull out a Paul Truswell-ism, one of our Radio Show Limited network colleagues. Paul, this season doing a lot of race strategy, so we haven't had him on the race calls as much as we normally do, but Paul always likes to say, when I make some kind of pronouncement, all things being equal, which they seldom are, John, and he's absolutely right to say that. But at the moment, Ben Constanduris, I would opine that the three BMWs in the front, they seem to be, when we look at them, when we look at the body language of the cars, when we go on board and see the inputs that are going in there, they would seem to be pacing themselves, and they seem to have the pace of on the rest of the field to keep them ahead.
It's been so solid, hasn't it? Especially from our front two. Getting through the traffic, always such a tricky thing. We don't have quite so many cars as we first started with. I think we're down to about 34 cars now, but they've been through that traffic without hardly any incident at all. And that has been very, very impressive to see, because that is actually one of the scariest things. You don't know who to trust around you. And Bruno and Nicky have done great. Nicky's going to be very frustrated if Bruno beats him, though.
Porsche in trouble. It's Le Mans corner. It's the number 54 of Dakota Gisson, and just goes out a little bit too wide and then drops the wheels onto the dirt at the end of the curb, and that puts him into the wall on the inside.
I did that last time.
Locks it all up. Oh, and damage to the right front.
I've done that.
What a shame. Dakota was running just outside the top 10. Meantime, behind him, Philippe Albuquerque's on a bit of a charge. He's just put his fastest for the race in. Remember, Philippe in the black and flames Porsche was held up recently, and he's now right in behind Dakota Dickerson after that incident for Dakota. Bent rear wing on Dakota's car with the right rear. Also, I think some steering damage. I bet his steering wheel's not straight now on his sim rig back at home. Albuquerque, the first man to stop, trying to push his way further up the top 20 and closer towards the top 10.
Dan Clark, who did take tyres, the highest ranked driver to take the class, he is actually gaining about a second and a half a lap on most laps against Christian Volti, who's running on the old tyres, but he's got to make up 23 seconds. It's going to be a difficult ask. So it has been proven, unless you had a problem, it has been the right move to stick, not change tyres and just take fuel.
Oh, dive down the inside at 17 from the 103 of Philippe Albuquerque through the bumps. Respect the bumps, even virtually you have to. And he goes through with the benefit of better tyres and more grip to be able to just pick a line that was a little bit tighter onto the start-finish straight, and that's a position gained by Philippe Albuquerque. He's up to 14th position. Meantime, at the front of the field, Spengler and Katzberg, the two team cars, 25 and 26. Under the hashtags,
putting the pressure on John. He's eked out by a couple of tenths every single lap for the last 5 or 6 laps. Now he's got a 2.2 second lead, having gained on a 10th last lap.
And the hashtag stay home livery, we know what that's all about, and that's why we're doing this Sebring race this way. Alpha 6 pretty close as well. Kenton Cook has got Shinya Mishimi coming through right on the back of his bright pink rear wing on his 911 RSR. The copper coloured Porsche of Mishimi coming out of turn 17 and onto the front straight.
Mishimi, who in the first half of the race was drifting back compared to the other top runners, now showing that, I think, iRacing experience and that Virgin experience, are now catching back up with Kenton Cook. So he's now going to make his move through the field, and hopefully, because Bertolotti's a little bit up the way, but he can certainly pick up this 6th place, and then he's going to have a big old run to try to get Bertolotti, who's in splendid isolation. Bertolotti, he's 8 seconds ahead and 9 seconds behind.
I must have a word with Kenton Cook next time I see him, because he clearly got a job lot of bright pink paint, because he's even painted the wheels that colour as well.
Quite good, actually, they could do that.
Oh dear. All right, okay. Hello, Alan Prosser, who is the king of the screen grab, and he has done a screen grab. That's it, this is a proper race. Alan has done a screen grab on the bumps at turn 17 of one of the BMWs. Alan, Lanzarote Camel on Twitter, at IMSA Radio if you want to get in touch with us. Alan, good to know that you've made the jump across from real world endurance racing watching into our virtual event this weekend. 16, call it 17 minutes to go. Ben?
John, we haven't had one of those sexy slow-mos yet. We've been waiting for them all race. It's nearly gone over an hour without a sexy slow-mo.
There's been too much going on, but now you've told Drew, I'm sure he'll do it. I'm predicting 8 laps to go. When I say I'm predicting, the computer software
is in the pits.
Computing that, and Albuquerque's not getting to the end. He's one more stop, and this is fuel. So he's gone for fuel. So did he miscalculate the early fuel stop there? Well, that's all I can think. He's gone for tyres as well.
Perhaps his first stop was a repair.
Well,
a repair and a splash.
Yes, could have been.
Of more importance, Bruno Spengler has had a very, very good lap in comparison to Nicky Katzberg. He gained 0.8 of a second, so he's now got a 3.1 second lead. So Spengler has literally the pin since the pit stop.
Big slide from one of the remaining Ferraris in turn 1. That's the 108 of Nico Ronde. And
we haven't seen many Ferraris, have we?
No, and of course we lost one when Joao Barbosa, and if you're joining us late and didn't hear the Michelin Countdown to Green, Joao Barbosa out even before we got started. He had a sim rig problem. His steering wheel went down, and that took out one of the Ferraris. So we've only got 2 left.
Richard Westbrook's got one for sale.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Lovely, slow, sexy slow-mo there from Drew and the team. A big shout-out, by the way, and I hate using that. Let's do that properly. Can we offer our congratulations and thanks, please, to the iRacing team and to all of IMSA, the competition side, Dave Sonsky, and also the Greg Elkin and the rest of the the press side and media side of things as well, communications, for getting this together and getting well over 70 drivers interested. We could only start 50 cars, but there were people on the reserve list, and there'll be drivers, and I'm sure Nick Tandy is one of these. Hello Nick, sorry to rub it in. He was a tiny bit late getting his entry in, and he'll be kicking himself because this has been an absolute cracker. And having Sage Karam as the first Porsche, that will be hurting. That will really be hurting. And of course we had Matt Campbell go out pretty early with contact as well. He's pretty handy on a sim, although his iRacing rating doesn't really reflect that. But I've spoken to a few people from the guys who are on the grid, Richard Creel and the rest of the team from Australia, our Australian team who look at Australian motorsport on Radio Show Limited network of channels on a Thursday night on RS1, and they said that Matty Campbell is just as good on a sim as he is in the car. So Porsche at the moment only running fourth.
Yeah, I mean the thing to remember is, whilst iRacing is obviously the most established of the proper sims, there are a number of other sims available. It may be that he's concentrating his time on other places, but when you come here, it's very transferable skills though. So it might be a C grade, but you actually got A grade talent.
And whilst I'm thanking people and acknowledging the effort that's gone in, David Pettit, who has put so much work into this as well and brought the team together. Well done to everybody at IMSA. I was going to say at One Daytona, but of course they're all working from home at the moment. And a special thank you to Drew and the rest of the team at iRacing for helping us with the technicals and talking us through it yesterday. 14th and 6th, two different battles. 14th on the right hand side of your screen, 6th on the left. On the left, Kenton Cook in the pink car, Shinja Mishimi in the bronze car. And it's Ben Waddell and Dakota Dickinson who are battling for 14th position if you've got the split screen there, as we go side by side from Sebring and the VP Racing Fuel Broadcast Centre, bringing you all of the play-by-play this weekend with the Michelin post-race tech interviews still come. And with, 13 minutes to go, gentlemen, 6 laps to go. Let's have a final look at our Porsche keys to the race. Stay on the lead lap because we knew there was going to be no cautions called. Well, now we have got, I reckon, only about 13 or 14 cars, Nick Damon, on the lead lap. Any damage has been absolutely crucial here. It's taking people out of it.
That's what's been most evidence. Whilst we've had some fantastic drives at the front, the first 5, 6, 7, 8, the order really from 8 downwards has mostly been decided by the cleanliness of how they run. The fastest drivers have had accidents, they've been involved in incidents. There's been some luck involved. There's people who've had some terrible accidents with people hitting them, but that's what it's about. The clean run is what's going to get you in the top half of the field.
That's Nico Ronde in the Ferrari going very sideways through turn 1. We had the sexy replay of that, got off in turn 1 and then went sideways, and masterful piece of avoidance, and then 2 cars behind. Oh my goodness me, that woke up whoever that was. Well, not quite enough. Drew, tell me what number that's one of the BMWs that went off, which I read. It's the 33 car, Gabby Chavez. Thank you, Drew.
Wow.
That woke Gabby Chavez up then, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think he lost the position to Daniel Morad as well by doing that. So he's dropped down to 9th position now.
Good call. Yeah, the 7 Porsche with the works colours on, that shield colour scheme. Closest battle on the circuit at the moment is for the top 6. The 6th position out at Tower Turn and heading down towards the Jean Dibian Benz. Fortier is right on the tail of these two as well, I think, as he comes through. Yeah, he's gained quite a bit of time while these two have been scrapping away onto the Ullman Straight down towards turn 17 Sunset. We've been blessed with good weather, and that might sound strange to be saying that, but talking through the logistics and the mechanics of the iRacing, it could have clouded over. That might have made things different. We're unlikely to have got rain at this time of the year because the programming takes into account where this track is in the world and what the weather patterns are. for this time of the year. So shadows that you're seeing at the moment, if you're watching the live feed, and if you're not, why aren't you? Live, free and uninterrupted, no blocks, no breaks, are exactly as it would be at this time of day today at Sebring. That is how sharp the simulation is. Gregory Leafuger in the number 9 car. That'll drop him out of the top 20, but already a lap back.
Spengler easing away from Katzberg in the lead now, the lead up to 3.9 seconds. It's been a fantastic performance by Bruno in this second half of the race.
5 laps to go is what the computer says. Oh, a little mistake there by Mashimi. Kenton Cook, all kinds of experience in IMSA racing prototypes. Came up through the Mazda ladder system and won championships there and got the scholarship. Really, really talented driver. Very tall lad, too tall probably for you'll see this, but he's been a brilliant addition.
Is he Matt Neal tall?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
blimey,
he really is. He's 5'13".
Oh yeah, a lot of those around.
Yeah, he's that sort of height, and
Remember Alex Verts insisted he was 6 foot.
very adaptable as well. Even when he went into front wheel drive with the TCRs, Kenton immediately on the pace. Shinji Mashimi, well, he's been known in that bronze car for the Lamborghini Challenge. Dominated that a couple of 3 years ago and has worked his way into the other IMSA series. Let's go back and take a bit of a look for a moment ago. This is from the visor cam, as a little mistake by Mashimi last time around down at turn 7 on the brakes. The front end of the car dips. Oh, a huge sideways moment. More than a dab of Oppo there as the back end of the Porsche locked up. Now, what I couldn't tell was whether that looked up on the down change or whether that was just the brakes. He might need a Ben Constanduras just to push the brake bias a little bit further forward on that Porsche now as the rear tyres seem to be wearing.
One of the many things that you can be adjusting constantly. They'll have their steering wheel set up so that they've got buttons that they can easily do that with, rather than trying to get your mouse down the corner and start clicking things. But it is something that plenty of different variables, much like they would have in these cars in real life, that can be changed to make sure as the tyres degrade, and they'll be feeling that as well, the car is still balanced under brakes and balanced in the corners.
The one I really like is they're flashing the lights to overtake as well. It's brilliant. I'm not even sure how that works virtually.
You can program a button to do 4 flashes.
But I'm just thinking, are you actually going to notice that if you're ahead? I mean, because I don't suppose the lights will actually flash the same they would in the mirror. I don't know.
No, but it's true. It won't just reflect.
It depends what view you're driving on, of course, and how much of the interior that you're looking at. But they're racing drivers. You know it makes them feel better.
Exactly. It makes you at least 3/10 of a second lap faster every time you flash those lights. Because used to be, that was one of the great rules, wasn't it? You used to be able to flash as much as you like. They was down to 10. Now it's down to 4. Because it ended up being WEC and IMSA bullying, wasn't it, in the end?
Bruno Spengler has pulled out to 3/10 of a second. Let's take a lap of Sebring out of turn 4 into 5, now into Big Bend from Bruno Spengler. If you're watching 4th, 5th, this is the visor cam. Down the back straight, a paucity of movement on the steering wheel. That big BMW is beautifully set up into turn 7. Tightest corner on the circuit, all the way down to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, through Fangio, up towards Cunningham Corner, right-hander coming up after a little left-hand kink. Down through the gearbox to 2nd gear. Take a little bit of curb on the inside. Come from the middle of the road. Through Collier, which is 11. And the right-hander, sweeping right-hander at 12. Into Tower Turn at 13. Don't go too wide. The curb is there, and you heard him hit it. Now into through Bishop and into Jean de Bihan, the sweeping serpentine corners at the far side of the circuit, and then all the way off the track to the left hand side. There's plenty of rubber down there now to open out turn 16, which is Le Mans, and onto the Ullman Straight. The Ullman family, of course, who brought this circuit into being for racing after its duty as a World War II fighter training base was at an end. Down towards turn 17, coast it in and then brake it, get the balance down into third gear. That BMW is riding the bumps so well. Let's go through turns 1, 2 and 3 as well, so we can say we've done a full lap across the stripe underneath the Chevrolet walkover bridge and down towards the fearsome turn 1. Perhaps that's the only place where the BMW looked a little bit nervous, and Bruno Spengler was having just to balance the steering and the throttle through 2 and 3 into turn 4, and now Nick Damon's nemesis, turn 5, and he gets through that, and that was a lap at 1:57.8 or thereabouts. What I noticed from that, Ben Constanduris, is what a stable platform that M8 GTLM is.
And I've just thought about something. I was watching Sebastian Priaulx on Instagram setting up his Ford GT for this race, and spending lots of time over the week getting laps in, but also changing the settings of the car. A lot of our competitions that we're seeing right now on esports are using fixed setups, but here on the IMSA race, we are allowing the drivers to have the setup that they need, the setup they want for their particular car. How much detail in the setup has gone from the BMW engineers into Spengler and Katzberg's cars in comparison to some of the other drivers a bit further down? I'd be very interested to know. BMW Motorsport, you're on our YouTube channel, so tell us, how much impact have you put in?
Yeah, I bet they've done a lot. Gabi Chavez goes straight on. Does he hit the tyres? He does hit the tyres. That was at Cunningham Corner at turn 10. Always a big, rowdy, but good-natured crowd around that area of the circuit. Get away without damage, I'm not sure.
No.
He might have. I'm indebted, by the way, to John de Geese, who quite some time ago, and John, sorry, I've only just seen this because I've been running so many screens. He's absolutely right, of course, that Ben was talking about Lando Norris being coming to watch. Well, Lando has done the Rolex 24 just 2 years ago with Philip Hansen and Fernando Alonso. So, Lando, you're in, mate. I'm sorry, I'd forgotten all about that in all of the excitement of this 50 driver race. So, keep an eye open for one Lando Norris in future, and I'm indebted to John de Geese, who reminded me of that. John de Geese of Sportscar 365.
Well, either Katzberg's making it interesting or Spengler's easing off the last couple of laps, because the leads come down from just shy of 4 seconds to 2.6. There's a car in between the two BMWs, and it's one of the Fords, so that's going to be being lapped and moves out of the way, the pink Ford. As all the Fords have had as all the Ferraris, they've not really managed to show, and it's been a BMW and Porsche benefit, but mostly a BMW benefit.
Yeah, the Fords have run out of steam. The Ferrari challenge never really got going, with Joao Barbosa, one of their leading lights, not getting to the start with technical problems on his steering wheel. And the best of the Porsches, well, fourth on downwards. There's plenty of them in the top 10, Nick and Ben, in terms of the Porsches, but they have not had the pace and Constanduris of the BMWs. It looks like a washout, a blue and white washout on the podium at the moment.
Yeah, what's slightly sad about that is that the Fords would have been very, very competitive as well, but we lost so many of them in accidents early on in the race, so unfortunately we don't get a chance to see how they perform. Ferrari's not known to be the car to have, and therefore we didn't really see any top Ferraris. Porsche versus BMW, but BMW somehow have really sorted this one out, and it's a big, heavy car, but as you observed riding on board with Spengler and Katzberg, it's just so stable over the bumps and into those turns.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. There's been some impressive setup work maybe coming to the last minute, because they are actually leading by 35 seconds before the first non-BMW car.
And that is then
and
the
that's
start.
Sage Karam.
Yes, it is Sage Karam, exactly, the highest rated driver. He and Shinja Mishimi, the only two with 5,000 or better averages in this race. They've played the tactical game, but they haven't had the pace. We're on the last lap now of the IMSA SuperSaturday event here on iRacing with IMSA Radio and IMSA TV, bringing the community together. What a cracker it's been. I really kind of wish we were going on for another couple of hours here to see more strategy playing out. We haven't had to do driver changes either as well, of course. This has been a single driver event, but from the drop of the green flag some 90 minutes ago, it has been all about BMW, and the guys at the front of the field, Spengler and Katzberg, have swapped positions, but other than that, they've not been challenged by anyone else without a Munich badged car. Final lap then, so let's take some final thoughts from you, Nick Damon, with half a lap to go.
It's just flown by, hasn't it? 90 minutes just disappeared without even realising it was happening. Fantastic performance by the BMWs, and I think, to echo what Ben said earlier, desperate bad luck for the Fords, and the Porsches have just made up the bulk of the cars. They do in every endurance race these days.
Well, 20 BMWs, 20 Porsches, 6 Fords and 3 Ferraris took the start. Actually, you can knock one of those Ferraris out. There was only 2, wasn't it, as João Barbosa? But it's only been about the 2 at the front. They're over 8 seconds ahead of the competition, and it will be Bruno Spengler who takes the IMSA Sebring SuperSaturday in style for the number 25 BMW. Hashtag stay at home. Goes across and wins it from his teammate Nicky Katzberg in second, and making it an all-Munich podium. That will be the number 24 of Jesse Krohn, 8.5 minutes back. Sage Karam is the best of the rest, as he is yet to come through. Now, here he comes into the final corner. Sage Karam, I was just slightly worried about the pace of the Porsche down the back straight, the Ullmann straight, but it will be Sage Karam, the top-rated driver here, who is the most unlucky, first off the podium. And behind him, a plethora of Porsches, with Mirko Bortolotti in the 888 in 5th. Kenton Cook will come through in 6th after a great battle in the last third of the race with Shinji Mishimi in the bronze car, who comes through 6th. Kenton Cook just clipping the wall there and almost taking the leaders out as he does his flick turn with the very shiny pink wheels. Mishimi in 7th, Daniel Morad in 8th position for Porsche, Tristan Vautier in 9th with the 85 car, and Gabi Chavez makes up the top 10. Quick word for Speedy Dan Clark. Started 26th and finished 11th, by far the biggest mover, but 3 BMWs lined up on the front straight. Looks absolutely brilliant. Congratulations to them. They've taken this very seriously indeed. Take a breath, but stay with us. The Michelin post-race tech show with some driver interviews comes up with the full rundown of the results in just a moment's time.
Checkered flag ends the race, but not the race talk. Have your say. Ask the expert. Make your point. Post-race tech. The end of the race is only the beginning.
Welcome to Michelin post-race tech after an extraordinary opening event to our IMSA iRacing year here at Sebring. Bruno Spengler from Nicky Katzberg and Jesse Krohn, the blue and white of BMW, over 5 Porsches and then 2 more BMWs. So the 2 German marques exactly sharing the top 10, with Sage Karam the best of the non-BMWs, then Bertolotti, Kenton Cook, Shinya Mishimi, Daniel Morad and Tristan Vautier. And we'll get a word with some of those drivers at the moment here in the VP Racing Fuels Broadcast Centre. And the Michelin post-race tech, Nick Damon and Ben Constanturas, stay with us as we just wait for the drivers to join us. And Drew, I'm going to put you live to the world. So you shout up the drivers are there. Everyone else will hear you as well. First of all, congratulations to everybody involved in this. The guys producing the pictures, you were stars. Thank you. Beyond the top 10, plenty of action. Daniel Clark, we mentioned. Let's have a quick word with Jerome Blakerall. Hi, Jerome. It's Hindhoff here in the VP Racing Fuels Broadcast Centre. Did you enjoy that? 33rd, not the result you wanted. Hello, Jerome. Can you hear us? Okay, thank you very much. This is just like the media scrum around. You recognise this, don't you?
I just kind of feel I'm sitting there and I'm bashing the microphone, going, "Why aren't you working? Why aren't you working? I'm talking to you, John.
No, it's exactly the media scrum always behind the issues. Jarrett Andretti barely got started. Hit the corner, the inside corner at turn 1. But today has all been about BMW. Been some big names in there. The Fords didn't get amongst it. Richard Westbrook went early as well, of course. And some of the young chargers like Roman DeAngelis never really got into the race. Dan Clark in 11th, Tom O'Gorman 12th, Corey Lewis 13th, Ben Waddell in 14th. A good Porsche group there as well. Dakota Dickerson recovering to 15th after a couple of incidents. Felipe Nasser 16th. Philippe Albuquerque tried the early stop, got him into 17th position ahead of Michael Lewis in 18th, Nico Ronde Ferrari in 19th, and Jeff Siegel wound up 20th in the number 69. That's how they finished. Let's have your comments as well from at IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT. Nicky Katzberg, welcome to the VP Fuels Broadcast Centre, and welcome Bruno. Nicky, you first of all, second position. You led plenty of that race. Was there a bit of team orders going on there, Nicky?
No, unfortunately not. I made a mistake, and Bruno was the stronger man today, unfortunately. But this was so much fun, and I never mind losing against Bruno.
You guys, have put a lot of work in there. I mean, how much went into tuning the car? How much went into tuning your setup and your sim rig? I know you two guys have been working hard on this.
Yeah, we have great support from BMW. So we did a lot of work on the setup, and we have some guys on the radio, even the engineering team. Looking at our fuel and looking at all the numbers, helping with the setup. So honestly, we have great support from BMW, and as in our rigs, I think we all have good equipment. Bruno's equipment is a little bit better. It gives him about 2/10 per lap, but no, I'm joking.
Very good. Very good. Guys, it seemed as though the BMW M8 GTLM was very good on its tyres and its fuel. Bruno, it looked like it was a very stable platform. We always say respect the bumps at Sebring, but we went for an onboard lap with you in the last third of the race. And even with your starting tyres on, the car looked really, really stable.
I mean, first of all, I have to say it's great to organize such an event, because in those difficult times we are experiencing right now, it's amazing from IMSA to organize something like this. I was very happy to be part of it. It was something very special. When I crossed start finish, it felt real, I had goosebumps everywhere, and it was a very special victory. So we had a great team behind us. From BMW side, as Nicky mentioned, it was a good fight with him. The guys behind us, Alexander Voss and Lorin Heinrich, they were great guys and supporting us, pushing us. So it's a whole team result. And as you said, over the distance, the car was consistent, could drive some consistent lap times. Although I had a mistake, almost lost the car in turn 16. I think my heartbeat went up to 200 at the time probably, but it's difficult. It was a tough race. I'm sweating like crazy, but I really enjoyed it.
Fastest lap of the race and the win. Bruno, Nicky, thank you very much indeed. Hope to see you back for the next one. Jesse Kron, I think, can join us as well. Made it a 1-2-3 for BMW. Congratulations, Jesse. Did you enjoy that? Hello, Jesse, are you there? Hello, Jesse Kron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry, Jesse. 1-2-3 for BMW, third place. You were only 9 seconds or so off at the end. Just didn't have the pace of the other two guys today.
Yeah, I think a little bit, not enough pace at the end. I was pushing at the end and I was catching a little bit, but too little, too late. Overall, super happy that we got a 1-2-3 with all three BMW drivers. So it was a really good race.
How did you decide on the strategy? There was a couple of people. Philippe Albuquerque went in pretty much straight away and did fuel and tyres after about half an hour, 30 minutes. You guys went right to the end of of the fuel and didn't do tyres. Excuse me. How did you decide on that strategy? Had you done some full race simulations?
Yeah, well, that's why I was sort of pacing the beginning of the race, because I did a test where I double stinted the tires, or stint and a half, and it was really slippery at the end of the stint. So I knew I had to pace it, but I paced it a little bit too much. So overall, we knew that after testing that the quicker strategy was not to take tires and pit right at the end of the fuel window, because when you're running in the front, obviously you stay in the front if you run the fuel.
A lot of people tweeting in at IMSA Radio using ERT, the Michelin PRT, asking what is the experience like, Jesse, as opposed to actually being at the track. That was an hour and a half, so that's like a stint and a half you would have done. You're not getting shaken around much, but I suspect the concentration levels were just as high as if you'd been in the race car.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no room for any errors, especially at the end of your stint. The tires are really starting to drop. So you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, and the concentration level is just as high as in a real race car without the physical aspect of it. Oh, actually, I'm running my wheelbase quite stiff, so I can feel it on my wrists. So even that's sort of there.
Well, it's brilliant stuff, Jesse. Will you be back to do it again? And have you got ideas about where you can find out those 11 seconds to the leader on 9.3 back to Nicky?
Yeah, well, I'm quite new to this racing. I've done sort of practice before every IMSA weekend, every now and again, but I've never been actually into full racing. So I fully enjoyed it. It was a great experience. Thank you for IMSA for putting this together. And as soon as there's another one organised, I'm in.
Okay, mate. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Jesse Cron joining us on the Michelin post-race tech. Lots of really positive comments coming through to at IMSA Radio using the hashtag MichelinPRT. Turner Motorsport didn't have the best day, but they said, when we were talking about I wish we'd go for a couple of more hours, they said this exceeded our expectations, and we agree. We can't thank IMSA, iRacing and our drivers enough. Stay tuned for more E-Blue and E-Yellow. That sounds like the rest thing to do. We're putting E in front of everything. So E, thank you very much for being with us for this. Ben Constanduris and Nick Damon were with me, John Hindhaugh, in the VP Fuel IMSA Broadcast Centre. And up in London, our executive producer was Tim Gray, getting us to the world. It was Drew and the team at iRacing who put this all together along with IMSA. Join us for the next one. And on Midweek Motorsport, Wednesday, 8 o'clock UK, we'll be back with 2 more hours of Motorsport Chat. I'm John Hindhaugh. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks for being with us on IMSA Super Saturday. Bye-bye.